Governor, you now have Jeff Cole from WWNY. Jeff, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Good afternoon, Governor. How are you?
How are we doing, Jeff?
Okay. Going back to the beginning of your comments here today, in addition to your message to New York's federal representatives, Senator Gillibrand puts blame on President Trump and also told us in an interview yesterday that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is complicit in what President Trump has done to this country. Do you agree, sir, that the Congresswoman is complicit in what has happened in our nation's capital?
Well, we'll make it simple, Jeff. I asked them. I asked the federal representatives today if they're complicit. And I'll tell you, it's a yes or a no. And the question is, if you don't support who he is and what he did and what happened, ask him to resign. And if you don't ask him to resign, you're complicit. It's that simple. You know, complicit, what does complicit mean? And you know, politicians, they're very good at mincing words, right? I like to be more direct. Are you complicit? I don't know. What do you mean by complicit? Do you believe the president should resign? I do. I believe he should resign. If he doesn't resign, I believe he should be impeached. I believe impeachment will be bad for the country. So I believe he should resign. Congresswoman Stefanik, do you believe he should resign? Yes or no? Congressman Meeks, do you believe he should resign? Yes or no? That's how I pose the question. If they say, I don't think you should resign, yeah, then you're complicit, you're part of it, you condoned it, you're with the mob.
Governor, you now have George Stockberger from WETM. George, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Governor. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Chemung County has been in the orange zone since October. Chemung County now has about 200 cases. Steuben County has over 600 and is not in the zone. Can you explain why Chemung County is still in the orange zone?
I cannot off the top of my head, but I will get you the answer after this call, and if Peter or Jamian will make sure you get a call back. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for the counties, though. I'm sorry. Next question, operator.
Governor, you now have Jeff Kulikowski from WSYR. Jeff, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Governor.
How are we doing,
Hi,
Jeff?
Governor. How are you this afternoon? Good. Go Bills, right?
All right, hold on. Let's stay on that for a second, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Go Bills. We're doing the Bills as a pilot, right? And I'm going to talk about this in the state of the state. But testing people before an activity, if you test negative, then you can go into the Bills game. But if you test negative, you could go into a restaurant. If you test negative, you could go into a theater. If you test negative, you could go into a commercial office building, right? We start with the Bills, 7,000 people. Oh, you can't test 7,000 people. All right, let's see if we can. Anyway, we have tested 7,000 people going into the Bills game. I just got the numbers. Of the 7,000 tests, which, by the way, worked great. It was a drive-through for most people, about 5 minutes a car. You didn't get out of the car. You took your test. You went right through. 7,000 tests. What do you think the positivity rate was on the 7,000 tests? Go ahead. I'll give you an over or under. What do you think, Jeff, was the positivity rate? It's an unfair question.
I'm going to say below 1%.
What would you say?
Below 1%.
1.9%. Very close. But that is remarkably low. Remarkably low as a random test. I don't know what it says. Maybe it's self-selecting with with Bills fans, but it's a 1.9% positivity, and we already did 7,000 tests before the game. Okay, but that wasn't your question. What was your question?
Well, I know we're not there yet, but the Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh, with the support of the Onondaga County Executive, have written you to ask for the city of Syracuse to be taken out of an orange zone and instead put the entire county into a yellow zone. Is that something you would consider, so that there are still some restrictions, but it does give some of those restaurants in the orange zone an opportunity to at least have a few people and keep the people that are going from the city literally over a geographic line into restaurants that fall in no zone?
Yeah, that is the problem with the whole zone concept. It's geographic, and people drive outside the zone. I have a great deal of respect for the mayor, and I have a great deal of respect for the county executive. We've done a lot of good things together, and they're good colleagues. As soon as I get the letter, I will look at it, and I will talk to them. Thank you, Jeff. Next question, operator.
Governor, you now have Morgan McKay from Spectrum News. Morgan, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Hello, Governor. How are you?
How are you, Morgan? You have to speak up a little bit.
Thank you. So I was wondering, exactly when will vaccines start for phase 1B? I know you're saying that they can start scheduling next week, but I'm wondering exactly when that will start. And also, just with President-elect Joe Biden saying that he could possibly start releasing more vaccines once he becomes in office, just kind of your thoughts there as well.
Okay. The 1A, 1B, on Monday, you can start to schedule appointments. Pharmacies will start coming online some Monday, more on Wednesday. We'll start opening the providers. We're going to have thousands of providers coming online next week. Monday basically is when the registration website will open to make an appointment. We're talking about 4 million people, right? And even though there are thousands of centers, you don't want to have 4 million people descending on any center. And we want to do it by reservation. So on Monday, we will open up a website that will tell you, here are the pharmacies in your area, here are the doctor networks in your area, here's the mass distribution site in your area. Call your Walgreens on Main Street and make an appointment. That's on Monday for 1A, 1B. To the extent, hold it, second point. The Walgreens, the distribution sites that are open, they need to first prioritize their own healthcare workers, because we don't want a COVID-positive pharmacist. We don't want a COVID-positive nurse who then does 50 vaccines in a day and then infects 50 people, right? So they will be doing their healthcare workers first. But on Monday, 1A, 1B will basically be able to make a reservation. Some doctors' networks and pharmacists and mass vaccination sites may say, come in Wednesday, come in Thursday, come in Friday. It depends. Hospitals, we still want to continue prioritizing the healthcare workers. The healthcare workers are far from done. And I am deluged with calls from healthcare workers saying their hospital hasn't made the vaccine available. So I'm asking the hospitals, if I had the power, I would order them to stay open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I'll tell you the truth. But the hospitals have to continue to focus on the healthcare workers. On Monday, The 1A and 1B will be open for the entire network, primarily by appointments. Hospitals can open 1A, 1B, but prioritize healthcare workers. Because, as I said, this is all about keeping the hospitals open. And I'm tired of people talking about we honor our frontline heroes, the nurses and the doctors. That's nice. Rhetoric is nice. Cards are nice. They want vaccines. And you want them vaccinated because you don't want to go before a nurse to get a vaccine who's COVID positive. And you don't want to see a hospital closed down because they can't get nurses because the nurses are sick, especially in this situation. So hospitals are part of the network. They prioritize healthcare workers, but they can also do 1B. Pharmacies are part of the network. They're going to be ultimately 5,000 pharmacies, but we want them to do their healthcare workers first, so they're not spreading the infection. Doctors' offices, same thing. Do your nurses, do your doctors first. And community-based centers, same thing. Vaccinate your healthcare workers so you're not spreading. As I said ad nauseum, the universe of 1A, 1B is 4 million people. At 300,000 dosages per week, that takes 14 weeks. Calibrate that, please, because that means a police union doesn't get enough vaccination for 14 weeks. A teacher's school district does not get enough vaccination for 14 weeks. 75-year-olds will not be able to get a vaccine up to 14 weeks. And the disconnect is going to be, the governor said, Monday I could call for a reservation. Yes, but it's going to be 14 weeks, which is an incredible amount of time. I use my mother as an example. I'm telling you the conversation I'm going to have with my mother. She's going to say, I called for an appointment, and they said they don't have an opening for 3 months. And she's not going to be happy with me. And I'm going to say, yeah, but I told you that. And the conversation will go downhill from there. Please calibrate that. We are dependent on the supply. I work closely with the Biden administration. They are working on accelerating the supply. That is great news. And the more we get, the more we transfer. And the more we transfer, then the faster that would be. So if we go from 300 to 400, it goes from 14 weeks to 10 weeks, or whatever the math is. But it's pure math as far as we're concerned. And as fast as the feds can regulate it, the better. I want to double down on the caution that the providers must follow the rules. You cannot show favoritism one group to the other. And you can't give the vaccine to people who are not eligible for the vaccine. I don't care if the person thinks they're a big shot. I don't care if it's a mayor. I don't care if it's a county executive. I don't care if it's a bank president. People are people, and lives are lives. And nobody's life is more important than anyone else's life. And this rationing system, this prioritization was accepted federally, nationally, by governors all across the state. It makes sense. It's fair. But we have to do what's fair. And don't commit fraud with the vaccine. And don't give it to your friends. And don't give it to your family who's not eligible. Follow the law. And it is the law. And if you don't follow the law, we're going to enforce the law. So on Monday, it opens for 1A, 1B. To the extent you can make a reservation and somebody says you can come in and get it on Monday, fine. To the extent a hospital says, I have vaccine that I can make available on Monday, fine. The hospitals still have to prioritize the healthcare workers, and they have a long way to go. But if they have extra capacity and they can do 1B on Monday, fine. But make a reservation. Dr. Zucker, Melissa, you want to add anything on that? Gareth? Jim? Beth? Robert? Why don't you just add something, Robert? Next question, operator.
Governor, you now have Jeff Preval from WGRZ. Jeff, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Hi there, Governor, and thank you so much for the time. We were expecting some sort of an announcement from you today on the reallocation of unused vaccine doses not used by hospitals to this point. Is there any additional information on that, and are you reallocating any of those doses?
Yeah, what we're going to do is this. The main way we're addressing the slow distribution by the hospitals, and again, not all hospitals were slow. You have some hospitals that did a fantastic job. We'll put out the list of the high performers and the low performers, and you've seen the overall increase in the performance. I said on Monday that they had to actually step up, and they went from 10,000 per day to like 60,000 per day vaccinations. And some of them did extraordinary work. But as I said, it is competence. It's 200 organizations with 200 management structures, and you're going to have better, you're going to have worse. It is always the way, you know, and that's what you see. You see better and you see worse. People get defensive. I understand that. I get defensive when people say I'm incompetent. I get it. But numbers are also numbers, right? And that's why you're going to have the numbers of the percentage that that hospital did. The main way we're going to solve it is we're bringing in a new distribution network, right? The thinking was you're doing healthcare workers. Where do healthcare workers work? They work in a hospital. Make the hospital the focal point of the distribution for 1A, because 1A was only healthcare workers. It made logical sense. They are overall slow on distribution. We're bringing in a new distribution network. Thousands of additional distribution points. Pharmacies alone are going to be thousands. Doctors' offices, hundreds. FQMCs, hundreds. Ambulatory centers, hundreds of them. Local health departments must, at a minimum, set up 2 sites themselves. State mass distribution centers. So we're just setting up an entirely new distribution center, which frankly is going to have much, much more capacity than product. We're now going to have the opposite problem. We're going to have 1,000 pharmacies, and you're going to call 1,000 pharmacies, and they're going to say, I have no vaccine. That's what's going to happen. I'm setting up that aggressive a distribution network because I'm hoping for increased supply. With reallocation, what we're saying is, right now, leave the allocation in those hospitals, prioritize healthcare workers, open it up to 1B people on Monday, stay open 24/7 or whatever you're willing to work, and then we're just going to eliminate the slow distributors in favor of faster distributors going forward. So in other words, if you're a hospital that distributes 100% of the vaccine, and you're now doing 1B people, I'd rather give you, we have a very scarce amount, I'd rather give you the vaccine than a hospital that I know it takes 2 weeks to get out the same number of doses, right? It's all about getting needles in the arm. So at this point, we're not going to go take back the allocation. Hospital, prioritize 1A, stay open longer. You can give it to 1B, but the slow performers just are not going to get additional allocations. Anyone have anything to add? Next question, operator.
Governor, you now have Keisha Kluge from Bloomberg. Keisha, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Governor. Just was curious, 2 questions. First, do you have the total number of people vaccinated in the state? And will you be releasing some sort of website that has those numbers daily so we're not asking you every day? And then also on the vaccinations with 1B, can you elaborate on how that process would work in terms of making sure that healthcare workers are prioritized?
Yeah. The 2 points. Gareth will give you the most up-to-date vaccination number. Hospitals must continue to prioritize healthcare workers, which means if you're a healthcare worker and I'm not, I'm a police officer, I'm eligible, but if the hospital says I have 1 appointment left, the healthcare worker is prioritized. Hospitals must continue to prioritize healthcare workers because we must get those people prioritized. On the rest of the distribution network, they all must do their healthcare workers first. So you have healthcare workers in the hospital, they have a priority, and then you have healthcare workers in all these other sites. Many of those sites are going to become distribution centers. All those providers have to do their healthcare workers first. Ambulatory center, doctor's office, you have to do your nurses and everybody first. Pharmacy, you have to do your pharmacy staff first. So everybody has to do their own health care staff first. And it's prioritized through the entire distribution network. Again, for the hospitals, we want to make sure we don't run out of hospital capacity. On the distribution network, pharmacies, et cetera, we don't want infected vaccine workers giving out viruses. We don't want them coming in contact with the people. Do you have the number?
Yes, we've done 479,000 doses so far. That includes 400,000 with the New York State sites, the hospital programs, urgent care clinics, et cetera, and 79,000 through the federal long-term care facility nursing home program so far.
The one point I didn't mention is the nursing homes will be finished by the end of next week. Is that right? That is a great accomplishment. So the nursing homes will be finished by the end of next week. Healthcare workers, between the acceleration in the hospitals and the private healthcare network doing their own healthcare workers, will increase that, and then we'll open 1B. But again, caution, 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 because the supply is a major problem. We are going to wind up having, I will predict for you, 2 predictions. One, we'll wind up having 3,000 distribution points in a couple of weeks, but none of them will have nearly enough vaccines. Police, fire, et cetera, they're going to get 1/14 of the allocation per week. And everybody's going to say they don't have enough. Again, when the supply does develop, we'll have the distribution center. And I'd rather have the distribution system up now so that if and when the supply increases, we can handle it. But my first prediction is everybody's going to say, I need more. My mother is going to say, I don't want to wait 3 months for an appointment. That's what she's going to say. And she's going to be unhappy. And she's going to think that she should go first because she is 75 plus, and she's going to be unhappy. And that's going to be the way it is. Second prediction, Bills win. Bills win. Bet on it. Thank you.